4, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this virtual presentation on our draft Thoroughfare and Collector Street plan. My name is Hannah Cockburn, and I serve as the Director of Transportation here at the City of Greensboro. As we go through a very short presentation tonight, we will have each of the staff who are presenting introduce themselves. And I want to make sure that everyone notes that this meeting is being recorded. The recording will be made available on the city's website once the post-processing is complete. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes telling you about what we'll cover in today's presentation, and then I'll hand it off to other staff. Lydia, do you want to move to the second slide? Thank you. So as you are all aware, the Thoroughfare and Collector Street plan does a variety of things for us, and it's a really important cornerstone for how we set up for the future of our community's connectivity. So this afternoon, our team will go through a few things specific to this plan, specific to the MPO, and give you a variety of ways to provide your thoughts, comments, and ideas on this plan. So we'll start off by giving it over to Lydia McIntyre, who's going to do a little bit of background on the MPO. Thanks, Lydia.
Hi, yes, my name is Lydia McIntyre, and I am a senior transportation planning engineer with the Greensboro MPO. I do want to share a little bit. Sometimes people don't know about the Metropolitan Planning Organization, so I'll start off sharing about that, and then we'll get into contents about the draft plan this evening. Just to share about the MPO, MPOs provide multimodal transportation planning for the city of Greensboro, but we go beyond the city and we actually provide transportation planning also for the surrounding towns, which include the town of Oak Ridge, Stokesdale, Summerfield, Pleasant Garden, Sedalia, and most of unincorporated Guilford County. And pretty much what it is, USDOT says, if you have a population over 50,000, you need to have planning staff in place in order to support your project recommendations or project suggestions, and to do that background and analysis work. And that's much of the role that the Metropolitan Planning Organization plays. This is a list of our Transportation Advisory Board or committee. We have two committees. We have the Technical Coordinating Committee, which I call the staff or the worker bees. And then we also have our Advisory Committee, which are our local elected officials, including our board representative from NCDOT. So you can see those here that are represented from the city of Greensboro, as well as we have two representatives from the Guilford County Board of Commissioners. And then also we have a small town representative, which actually is being hosted right now, or the seats being held by Reese Walker from the Summerfield Town Council. That's just a little bit of background about the MPO, or the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Now we'll get into the draft Thoroughfare and Collector Street plan process. Just to give you a little background on the process that was used by staff, it was a cross-functional team of the Transportation Department, the Greensboro DOT, as well as staff from the MPO. They worked over several months to go through this map and look at all roadways and facilities. A couple different things they were referencing while they were going through this process, looking at long-term plans. And when we say long-term, we're talking 20 years or more, as well as short-term plans in terms of land use plans or development that's coming through and that's maybe expected in the near future. So they were looking at several different factors as they were looking at both the thoroughfares as well as the collector streets on those different maps. And we also, during this time, staff worked to revise or create a tool for you all to provide feedback. And I'll talk about that a little later, how you can provide your comments. And before we get a little more into the detail or highlights of the plan, just to kind of give you a basic foundational considerations that staff were using while they were reviewing the plans are the things to think about: the consideration for the roadway functional considerations. When you look at a roadway network, you have different types of roads that have different types of uses. And there are different things that you look at or consider while you're looking at classifying a road and determining several different things or characteristics about that road. So one of those things, you look at the volume versus the access. So here we have an example from FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration, that kind of shows you the different levels of the roadways that you have. So you start here with the local at the very bottom. The example we gave from the Greensboro area is Park Avenue. And you have access here on the X axis, and then volume and speed on the Y axis. And as you increase access, then that means you more than likely the road may be a local or a collector facility. And when we say access, we mean being able to turn in easily. It's not interchanges, it's not how do I say it? It's not restricted, where you can have easy access. So you may see on a local road or collector, you may see more driveways, easier access to get in and out. But as you progress in terms of the volume, as well as the speed increases, because at your lower levels, of course, your speed should be low. But as your access kind of gets restricted as you go across and go up, you can see that the roadway type will change, with at the top or uppermost being the freeways. And we know freeways are high speed and controlled access where you can only get on and off at your interchanges. So this kind of gives you a basic sense of some of the characteristics that staff were reviewing in terms of classification. And you can kind of think about the roadway that you may use every day to understand the difference in how it's operating. I'm going to give a little bit about the plan background in terms of the thoroughfare and the collector street plan. These two plans, which we actually are taking this opportunity to combine into one, actually support the implementation for the land development ordinance of the MPO member jurisdictions. So each entity will have their own. So Greensboro has theirs, and then Gifford County covers some for some of the smaller jurisdictions. But they will use this to support those decisions that they make as land development cases come in, or even as they're looking at their land use or comprehensive plans. These plans, the thoroughfare and the collector street, they help establish the appropriate street design standards, including what's the width of the lane, what should it be like? How about the access that we already talked about, or the cross section? Is it a 2-lane or 4-lane? Does it include sidewalks? Are there bicycle and pedestrian accommodations? Is there a center turn lane? These types of things are considered, as well as transit shelter locations. It also provides the opportunity to protect needed right-of-way in the land development process. So the whole goal is to plan accordingly, and to have something in place that we can use to guide our decisions, so that there is a orderly process to how our roads are being connected and being built. And it also is an opportunity to determine the exact locations of the thoroughfares and the collectors during the site development process. There is a discussion there when plans come in. We have our map, but then there's discussions with the developers where staff work with them to determine the best final alignment, particularly if there are to be built, a portion of built by them. And just to talk a little bit more about how it can be used to control the number of future access points along those thoroughfares, because we do want, it's the balance. So we talked about speed and volume, and you could also even talk about mobility. So access, so getting there. So the mobility level changes. So it's important to pay attention to the number of access points, because the more access points, we know that would have an impact on the capacity and your mobility. Also, to ensure new construction is built at suitable distances from freeways and thoroughfares, and also allow for the coordination of connectivity for new developments. So why did we do the update? It had been a few years, or a little while, since we had updated the collector plan. And this time we did decide to combine the thoroughfare and the collector plan together, because they do have a synergy where they work together and they build a network. So that's one reason we did the update. And also to be consistent with our 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. For those who are not familiar with that, that's a long-term document that each MPO is responsible for updating on a 4 to 5 year cycle. And it has a 20-year horizon, and it's multimodal. So it doesn't just look at roads, but it looks at all modes. But we do have future roads that we recommend, and facilities and other modal project recommendations that we were able to update with this update of the Thoroughfare and Collector Street Plan. Our updates also reflect the construction of previously planned roads that have been built, such as the urban loop that you all know was recently completed. Also, the removal of planned facilities that are no longer feasible or not needed. Also, shifting the alignments due to development activity or environmental constraints. And then also, there were revisions to functional classes where staff took a closer look at how the road was actually operating, or if it had a new connection, there may have been a need for it to be revised in terms of its classification. And just to give you kind of a highlight in terms of what were the extent of changes to those the Thoroughfare and Collector Streets, we had a lot of the highest percent. You can see there, the 73% of roadways were reclassified. So it could have been reclassified to a collector, or reclassified from a collector to a minor thoroughfare, or even from a collector to a local. But then also some facilities were added, and then some were also removed. And those would have been removed whether it was unable to, as we said earlier, if it was infeasible or not needed for the future. Now, how do you comment? So I've kind of given you a little bit of the background about the Thoroughfare and the Collector Street Plan in terms of the process that the staff used, in terms of making the updates, what type of updates we had. And then you also have the opportunity. The plan was released on February 1st, and you have the opportunity to comment on this plan through April 3rd. So we just want to say you can comment through a survey, an online survey that we have. Also, you can send us an email, or you can write your comments to us at the address here. And we are, as we stated earlier, we are recording this. So if you can't get all this information now, this recording will be available on the website that you can go back and get this information. And we'll also at the end provide you the website where you can also gather this information to make your comments. And the last way you can make your comments is using our online mapping tool. To our staff members, we're very integral in helping develop this tool. And this tool is a way that you can actually go to your location. Like you can look into where you live and make a specific comment about a roadway if you desire to do it that way. So we would love for you to use this tool if you feel comfortable with it. And to help you with that, Trong Chung, when our transportation planner, is just going to walk you through it to show you how to use the tool. Just give us a second to get it up.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Lydia. Hi, everyone. My name is Tram Chung. I'm a transportation planner with the Greensboro MPO. So today I will walk you through how to use the tool. So if you go to, this is the website of the draft Thoroughfare and Collector Street Plan. So when you scroll to that, you will see a list, you will see the interactive tool right here. When you click on this link, it will open up this window. So on the top of the page, you will see that we put the information for you easier to reference, like the street classification definitions, the FAQs, and some map tips for you to view it. So this is the map that we created, and when you go to the home page, that will show you the whole boundary of the MPO. So when you zoom it in, you can either like use the tool on the map, or you can put the control and scroll the mouse. That will have you zoom in or zoom out the map to look closer or have the picture view. And when you zoom in and out, you can see that you will see like the information here may change. They have like more details. And together with that, the legend on the left side will be changed together with that as well. And on the map, when you look closer, and if you click on this, it will pop out the information. It will pop out the information of the road that you want. If you're interested in a specific road you want to look up. And down of the page over here, you will see the table, the list table. And if you look at that, and if you are interested in any specific road, for example, the Bellamid, and you want to have closely of that, you double click on that, the map will zoom to that. The map will zoom to that road for you to have the closer look. So this is how we use the map tool and the list here. To make a comment, and you look at the right side of the map, you will see they have the editor and make a comment. You click on the new feature and you place a point here. Just like, for example, if I want to make a comment on this area or this specific road, then I place a point here, and it will show up the survey that if I want to put comment on this. And this is specific questions that you can answer, or if you have general comments you want to make, you can type it here, and after that you put create. Then the point and the comment will go to our database and we can view it.
Thank you, Trom. And I'll just show you. So Trom showed you how to use the online tool, map tool. I just want to show you briefly too how you can get to the online survey. So we have a direct survey or the map tool. So let me show you how you can access that. And what I'm showing you all, are you all able to see the screen? Are you all able to see the screen? Thank you. What I'm showing you all is our website for the MPO. If you Google www.guamp.org, this will take you to our landing page, and you can see here where you say for public review. You can click there, and now take you to the landing page. And actually, this is where the recording will be posted. Give us 48 hours, and it'll be posted here. But then also you can say here, you see it says waits to comment. And you'll be able to post comments on the map that Ms. Trung showed you, as well as take a survey here on SurveyMonkey. Or you can schedule a discussion. So if you have very detailed questions, or you have multiple questions about the map, and you need to have an understanding, you can schedule an in-person meeting if you would like to have your questions answered that way. Or you can either email them at this address and we'll receive it and respond to you, or you can mail or fax them to us. At this time, we'll open it up for questions. I will ask that everyone remain muted and that you post your questions in the chat, and we'll take them in the order that we receive. If you do have a question about a roadway that's adjacent to your property, a specific question, a detailed question, we ask that you do email that, and we'll put that email, we can put that email in the chat for you to send it to us. But if you have a general question about the process, or any other general questions about the plan, you can post those in the chat and we'll answer those at this time. And I'll stop sharing so we can address those questions. And we have our first question. Chris or Stafford will help us in answering these. And the first question I see is from David Hampton. Why is North Elm the same classification as Wendover? David, I don't know if we're able to answer that now. We may need to come back and answer that overall, because if we're not able to answer the question today, because we need to go back and look at the plan specifically and then respond to you, you will see a response. We are recording your questions. You will see a response in the final document.
May I elaborate on that question? This is a general question of why a street that, like Elm, that has one lane in each direction is the same classification as a street like Wendover, which has 4 lanes in each direction, plus several interchanges. Why is Wendover not classified as a freeway? They're both currently classified as major streets. So that's just a general question.
Yeah, just in general terms, David, it's not necessarily looking at the number of lanes, it's looking at the purpose of the roadway in the context of the entire network. Elm Street is a continuous route that runs all the way from downtown out through, and up out of the city limits, like Wendover. So in the context of the overall network, it serves a purpose to send through traffic. It does change when you get downtown. So in that particular context, you can see where Elm Street changes as you get into a different context. But of course, we can take individual comments and evaluate those.
And I have another general question, but I'm willing to wait for others to ask their question.
And David, do you mind putting your question in the chat for me? That would be helpful. Thank you. And I'll note for those, the email is in the chat, both the email, Trom placed in the chat, our email address or our website address, as well as our email. Are there any other questions? Please place them in the chat for us. And then David, it looks like we just got questions from David right now. How are bike routes related to the street classifications? Which will go back to the usage. And then his next question, are the street classifications that preclude bike or ped, are street classifications? Let's see if we answer, let's look at the first question. I might come back to you on that second one, David.
I think maybe he means, are there street classifications that preclude bike or ped facilities?
Oh, are there? Okay, I see now.
Yeah. So David, you're familiar with our bicycle and greenways master plan, which is a separate document, a planning document that we utilize to evaluate bicycle and pedestrian networks. So they're independent documents, but they work together. And so we evaluate, all major thoroughfares are not the same. So just like all collector streets are not the same, we'll evaluate each as part of that bicycle and greenways master plan. And also as we get to the point of implementation, various improvements, a major thoroughfare could be a 3-lane section with bike lanes. It could be a 6-lane Wendover Avenue, right? So the context definitely depends in most cases. So they're not specific recommendations on this plan for those things. And I would say no, there's no specific, nothing specifically precludes bike or ped facilities on roadways, but you can look at our design standards, street design standards, which reference what we're looking for in terms of sidewalk on both sides of facilities. Like when a developer builds a local street, we require it on at least one side of the road. Same applies as the classifications go up. But again, you can reference the city street design standards if you're interested in that.
Well, I will amend that any roadway that has a controlled access, that being a major thoroughfare or a freeway, anything for controlled access shall not have bike and ped accommodations on it.
Good point, Fred.
But those would be, owned by NCDOT, not by the city. So
And I think there are some instances. So for example, the triangle bikeway that's being proposed along I-40 in Wake County, for example, where it's not necessarily part of the roadway, but it is inside the right of way. So I think there's no cut and dried simple answer to your question. The context, as Chris mentioned, is extremely important, and we take that into consideration every time we are considering something.
And David had one additional question. Can we add bike or ped facility routings that are independent of street right-of-ways? We add bike or ped facility routings that are independent of street right-of-ways.
David, I think that's probably outside the context of this discussion. It wouldn't be relevant to this. And be happy to dig into that with you a little further, what you're talking about there. But that sounds like something more appropriately addressed to the BiPAP plan.
If I may elaborate on that, you have, for instance, there's a North Elam and there's sort of a South Elam. There's an Elam south of Bryan, and then there's another one that's sort of on north of there. If we wanted to have a trail that connected the two, hypothetically, would that be the creation of a new set of right-of-way? And it probably would, since there's existing properties in there. How is that different than creating an extension of Franklin Boulevard, which I think is on your map? If we want to plan ahead on having crosstown bike routes and pedestrian routes, would this be the process to plan those, or would that be in some other plan that deals with future right-of-way?
I would say, yeah, anything that is off-road, that would definitely be covered in our BiPAP plan, because that deals with greenways as well as bike facilities and pedestrian facilities.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, David. If we have no other questions, this will conclude our presentation. So I'll just ask one more time, are there any other questions? If not, we thank you for joining us today on the draft Thoroughfare and Collector Street Plan. As I said, you will be able to comment on the plan through April 3rd. And the plan will be available, and you can check out more information as well as view this recording and on our website at www.guapo.org. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to your comments.